Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Deja vu, Groundhog Day, whatever you want to call it. It was all the same on Saturday night against the Bombers. Hello, Nest family. Wish we could be coming to you in better circumstances, but the weekend was unfortunately not the way in which we wanted it to go. Drew Jones, good to see you, mate. You're in lockdown there. That's pretty damn ordinary. I guess the Eagles scenario is a slight lift on the situation in Victoria, but you could have used the 4 points to get you by amid what's going on in Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah, Garby, hello. Great to see you. I'd really set myself on Saturday to settle in and enjoy, hopefully, a victory. So that was supposed to be my weekend highlight. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I want to put something to you, Garby, off the top here, because it's been nagging away at me since the game. Is Adam Simpson to blame for this loss? Did he take too big a gamble? I want your initial response. We'll get into the nitty-gritty in a moment.
I'll say no. Honestly, I will say no. I think hindsight forces it. I think Tim Kelly and Oscar Allen both going down in a quarter is really unfortunate. I'm not saying we definitely win with them on, but there's a good chance. And if that happens, we beat the Bombers at home. Elliot Yeo looked better as the game went on. He gets through an AFL game at 60% and he's right to go against Carlton away, and it all works out well. I don't mind him gambling in that sense. I didn't mind it considering how much pressure's been put on the mids all season long without Yowie and Shuey. So, no, I'll back him in on that one. I'm not saying it was the right call, but I don't think it was something that he needs to be smashed for, because it was unfortunate that Kelly goes down, and you don't plan for that. You plan for everything to go well, and you back a plan to win the game. So, no, I won't blame him for that. There are other things I think we can point to at the moment, but that one, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. What about you?
So interesting, isn't it? I heard Jared Waitley and David King talk about this today on radio, and Jared framed it as obviously Adam Simpson viewed this as an absolute must-win game. So therefore, they must have felt that the gamble of getting an A-grade midfielder back into the side was worth it, even if he's not at 100% fitness and could only play 60% game time. I just think there was just a little bit out of whack. So playing Bailey Williams in the wet as well as Nick Nat, and then having Waterman sub, we were just one runner short in the lineup of 23. So if a big man went down on Saturday night, we could have covered it. Like Oscar Allen, essentially we could cover. But if a smaller guy went down, we couldn't. But we just didn't have the cattle to cover. So to have the sub as a bigger guy, even though I know Waterman's a runner, I think was a mistake. So, yeah, in hindsight, maybe Bailey Williams laid out Oscar more time in the ruck and get a smaller player into the lineup maybe would have been a better move. It's easy in hindsight, but it's been a problem all year. Like if you look at the last quarter fade outs, the contested ball differential in the last quarter, this is not a new thing. We've watched this unfold so many times this season, yet it continues to happen.
Could we actually be unfit? Like, I think it's worth raising the question, are we not at the level physically? That seems ridiculous to fathom. It seems impossible to fathom that a team that won a flag 3 seasons ago wouldn't have the fitness requirements. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more mental, but could that actually be a problem that for whatever reason, we're not up to the standard physically?
Well, how else do you explain the fade out? No, it can't just be mental. It can't be, because if it was mental, or if it was all mental, we would have surely found a way to counter it by now, because it keeps happening. So, but there are reasons for it being physical on the weekend because of one down, losing a runner, all that sort of stuff. But
I think,
for sure.
I think it's a mixture of mental and just the lack of numbers in the midfield. And we just can't compete with teams through there. And then we get Yowie back and then Kelly goes down. We can't buy a trick either.
Yeah.
But I think it is a mental problem. I think, we discussed it so many times, so we don't have to go over all these issues again, but soft underbelly, failure to arrest momentum, lack of leadership, lack of grunts, players too happy with themselves, no one prepared to put the hard word on one another, no one prepared to stand up and do something tough in a disciplined sense. I mean, Dom Sheed slamming Bobby Hill's head into the ground is not tough. Liam Ryan playing on angry pills on the weekend, flicking the bird and, clenching his fist and doing those sorts of things is not tough. That's another issue. They look a bit frustrated, some players at the moment, and it can't just be with the results. I don't seem to be as happy as they should be with each other. That seems a bit of an issue at the moment as well. There just seems to be something off in the camp for a variety of reasons.
Interesting that you point out that those signs of frustrations, I've actually weirdly enjoyed them. Like, I felt like Bobby Hill should head, even though it cost us a goal, the game was probably over, but I felt that frustration throughout the season at different times. And the fact that it's boiling over, at least we know the players care. At least they know it, by them showing that frustration, at least we know that they know that there's an issue, that something's not clicking. Yeah. Like, Liam Ryan's come back from injury, probably a little underdone, and that's not his fault. So he's probably frustrated that he's not playing his best footy and that he's not having the effect on games that he wants to. He's certainly doing it in flashes, but he's not at the All-Australian level that he was, at the end of last season, at the start of this year.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. But the frustration I've felt watching us in the last quarter, just there was no method. There was no transition of the ball from back 50 to forward 50. Like, what were we doing? And it's not the first time this has happened, but it's like, why does it keep happening? And it's just so predictable. Like,
it's so predictable.
It's like,
it's
a car crash.
I was watching, so I was actually covering Gold Coast Hawthorn at the same time that I was watching, and I was next to a journo in the press box. And as soon as the Bombers drew level, I said, they'll win this game. This is done. They will win this game, because we've seen it 4 or 5 times before. There is just no sign of things being flicked the other way. And Matt, hey, maybe we need to give the lack of leaders a bit more credit than what it is. Like, Shuey out, okay, you can't really include him as a key part of the team at the moment. He needed that one game to work his way back. McGovern, Duggan, and then Witherden's been important. He's not a leader, but the others are real leaders who can maybe change something. Now, that's not excusing the others for not doing it, but we maybe need to take that into account a little bit. But they're just, why do they allow themselves to be cruised by? Why is no one, apart from Nick Natanui, he's the only bloke that looks, I feel so sorry for him, the only bloke who looks like he is trying to change things. Yes, Dom Sheed keeps getting the ball. Others are getting their hands on it. Jack Redden's fighting hard. Nick Natanui is the only one of serious caliber and leadership. He looks like saying, no, this ball is not going back the other way this time. We are getting it forward. And I'll do everything I can to move it into our forward line and change the tempo of this game. It's hard to fathom why there aren't enough going with him and doing the same thing.
It's hard to get your head around, I think, as someone who, and for both of us we're close, we're on the precipice of the footy industry. Like, we cover it almost every day. We watch a hell of a lot of footy. We know the Eagles inside and out, but we're not in the team meetings. Like, we don't know about the inner workings of tactics and game plans and systems. So to understand so much of the game well, like every West Coast fan, every person listening to this podcast knows West Coast backwards and forwards. So to watch that unfold, like, it just causes me so many questions in my mind, which I need answers to. Like, but it's so hard to get them.
Okay. So let me raise this, Drewy. Now, we're not doubting for a second Adam Simpson's quality as a coach, but it is an issue in management, whether it's sport or business or otherwise. At the same voice, Pep Guardiola said this. He said he changes jobs every 3 or 4 years because the same voice can become an issue for players. Sir Alex Ferguson used to change the squad up because, he wanted to mix up the dynamic in the dressing room, right? Every season, basically, to put players on their toes. We know how brilliant Simo is. We love him. I'm not doubting his quality as a coach one bit or his ability to turn this around. But could this be the word getting tired type scenario and the voice maybe just wearing thin on the players and they're just lacking a little bit of inspiration right now? Is that worth questioning? And is this Adam Simpson's really big test as a coach right now to see where he goes at West Coast?
Yeah, it's a massive test. I think you're spot on because it does feel like we might be at a bit of a crossroads. We're not going to win the flag this year. But
it's not impossible. I think if we, for whatever reason, it clicks in the last, we get momentum at the perfect time of the season, will be a chance, but it looks very unlikely.
Yeah, we should play finals. We're certainly a good enough team to play at least the first round of the finals. And then, theoretically, we're a 1 in 8 chance, but, statistically, historically, we're a 1 in, 50 chance or something of winning the flag from outside the top 4. So, we're in the hunt. Everything has to go right. But, we're probably not going to win the flag this season. So now what is there to, what are we learning by rolling out the same guys, playing the same way each week when it's not working? We're banging our heads up against the wall if we continue to fade out in last quarters and lose.
The style probably needs tinkering with. I think the basis of it is successful. The 3 key forwards, keeping possession, our intercept markers. The basis, I think, is successful, but it needs tinkering. We need to somehow inject some speed and a little bit more dynamism into the team. I think you had the same challenge at the start of 2018, right? We became a predictable side in 2017. We became a slow side. Ryan comes in, Rioli comes in, and he starts mixing up with a couple of young kids as well. Other players elevate their games. We win a flag. It feels like that same moment again. Doesn't need an overhaul. It needs tinkering. And he maybe needs to change up a few positions and inject in a couple of different players and changes the way we move the ball in some ways. Maybe we go a bit too slow at times with the current rules. And maybe he needs to alter that now to give us a chance this season, which is a difficult thing to do. All these questions, I think, are valid.
Yeah, so the efficiency going forward is not a problem, although we have been a little sloppy the last couple of weeks, not at our absolute best. If you compare us, say the way that we played, for a couple of quarters against Collingwood or against Port Adelaide, that ruthless efficiency, the really good ball use, the bounciness that we get from some of the mids. You watch us in the last quarter against Essendon and you're like, where the hell is that? Like, why can't we do it throughout an entire game? So that has to be addressed. So I still think the style can still work. But why is it not sustainable across 4 quarters? And then what is our answer to Essendon getting on top? How can we get it back on our terms? Or how can we slightly divert from what we would normally do, but still be effective and score? So, that's to work on that on the run in the season is difficult. So that's the big challenge for Adam Simpson. And we haven't won on the SCG for a long time. So this game against Carlton is no gimme. They're due a scalp, Garby. They've won 3 games in the last 60 against teams in the top 8. Like, they never beat teams that are better than them, ever.
Oh, I think they'll win. I mean, we'll get into the whys and wherefores a bit later on. We'll do the votes first and wrap up the best players, and we'll look through some of the changes for the game. But I think Carlton will win as it stands right now. But we can get into that a little bit later. Let's talk about some of the positives. Let's get into the votes, and we'll give the Nest medal an update as well. So you're 5-1, Drewy, from the game.
Nick was clearly our best player. I felt on the night, he was effective, and I checked the champion data again, as I like to do with Nick these days, and he was above 25 for his rating points for the game, which is unbelievably high for any player. So Nick now gets the 5 from me. Dom Sheed was just relentless. 43 possessions and a goal. That's the Dom Sheed we want to see. He doesn't have to get 43 every week, but he just all the time metronomic around the ball. Lots of contests. Kennedy was lethal up forward, gave him 3, and then throw a blanket over the rest. But I liked Rotham and Hearn down back, so they got the 2 and the 1.
Yeah, there was a bit of that feeling looking at the votes, a couple of standouts in Nick and Sheed, and then, there's a range of different players who were mentioned. So Nick 5 for me as well. I mean, just awesome in the ruck, awesome in his intent. Oh, but he doesn't take enough marks. He only took 1 mark for the game. I mean, what a load of absolute nonsense. 40 hitouts, 21 possessions, so many of them contested. You can't ask for much more. And as I said before, I'm feeling sorry for the bloke. Agree with you on Sheed, 40-odd possessions. That's just a great number, and used it reasonably well. A couple of hairy moments, but, he was the one who kept us going. I gave Hearn 3 as well. Thought he was good defensively. A couple of big intercept marks. I gave Tommy Barrass 2. I thought he also kept the Bombers at bay as much as he could, but it just became overwhelming. And I gave Tom Cole 1. I thought he had a really good game, Tommy Cole. Really liked what he did, and he impressed me. So taking that all into account and tallying up what the listeners have sent through, thank you all again for your submissions. We've got Nick Natanui on 50 votes. He gets the 5. Dom Sheed had 36, gets the 4. Tommy Barrass had 15, so he gets the 3. Jack Redden got a lot of votes from the listeners. Good on him. He gets the 2. He had 11 votes. And then Shannon Hearn got 9, so he gets the 1. So 5 to Nick Nat, 4 to Sheed, 3 to TB, 2 to Redden, 1 to Hearn. The updated Nest Medal leaderboard. Timmy Kelly still on top with 21. Jack Darling with 20 in second. Nick Natanui moves into third on 18 votes. Tommy Barrass right there on 16. And then we've got Oscar Allen 13, Dom Sheed on 12, Gaff 12, Redden on 9, starting to bob up a bit, and then Jack Petrocelli on 7. So that is how it stands right now. Still Tim Kelly in the lead, but we lose him for a month. I mean, probably a good result considering it's a knee and we feared ACL. A month we can manage. That includes the bye, so it's probably 3 weeks all up. Hopefully he looks in really good shape physically, so he should be able to come back and pick up from where he left off. But it's just like the minute we get one back, we lose another.
God, he played a good first quarter.
Yeah, he got votes. Timmy Kelly got, can you believe it? What did he finish up with, Kelly? I think 4 or 5 votes, despite playing a quarter and a half.
I think there was a stage in the third quarter where he was still like our third highest possession winner, and he hadn't been out in the field for about an hour. He looks in sensational nick. It's such a shame to lose him. That's the first time he's going to miss a game for his AFL career. He's played every game possible since being drafted. He's like so reliable and so durable. Yeah, it's such a shame to lose him. But the prospect of Yo like hitting those packs, like you saw it a couple of times on Saturday night where he times his run to contest really well, Yo, and gets that front and square, and then he's moving fast, he's powerful, like he gets that handball off that long kick. But the prospect of him doing that dirty work or hitting the pack and getting the ball and farming it out to Kelly, like that's what we've been wanting to see for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going to have to wait.
Yeah. Well, is it too much to ask to have Yo, Kelly, Shuey, Gaff, Sheed, Redden all up and going at their best? It might not happen. Gaffy's on the slide a little bit. Shuey's picking up these injuries. Maybe it will never happen and we won't ever all see them at their best. Last season when Yo was up and going in the early part, Timmy wasn't at his best. So just hasn't felt like they've ever got that mixed together at 100%. Maybe at the end of the season it'll happen, hopefully, and then we can give it a real crack. But who comes in for Kelly this week? Xavier O'Neill was really good in the waffle. I think he has to come in. And I think we just have to get another midfielder in there. With Yo not at 100%, I think someone like a Bubba Ainsworth has to come in and just play him in the midfield and just say, go for it. Just you're playing in the middle on the ball, you and Xavier O'Neill, and you're part of that midfield group and just friggin' attack the thing.
Yeah, so having not watched the reserves, it's hard to comment, isn't it? So whoever our next 2 best midfield performers are in the waffle, I think you just got to get them into the 23. And then without Oscar Allen, looks like he's not going to play. Concussion protocol or whatever the issue is. It was a pretty scary incident. Do you think maybe just you bring young Edwards in and you got like someone's got to look after Mackay and Casbolt and DeConning? Like apart from Mackay, they're not like elite talent, but they're still tall. Like you got to put someone on them.
Yeah, I watched them on the weekend. They might try and exploit the lack of another key defender there with Casbolt and playing deep with Mackay. I mean, they go to Mackay every time. So Barrass gets that job. They just got him over and over again, and he's in really good nick. So that's a big job for Tommy, but we know he can handle it at his best. And then if I was David Teague, I'd say, well, Levi, you're playing key forward. Let's try and exploit the lack of Oscar Allen and the lack of McGovern. So maybe Harry Edwards comes in. So I think Jake Waterman comes in for Oscar. I know he's inconsistent, but he played well as a sub. So he probably comes in for him. And then I think, Jermaine Jones, 6 possessions, Archie like 12 and didn't do much. I'd probably keep Jermaine Jones in. I don't know why, just a hunch on the SCG. He might be able on the smaller ground, be a little bit more busy and make something happen. And maybe Archie goes out and, we slot in Ainsworth and O'Neill. And then, maybe it's Edwards who comes in as well to mark the other key forward, or maybe they can just rely on Levi not being much of a threat. And we've got enough runners back there in Shep and Hearn and Rotham to do the job on those players. We can get by. I think we can probably manage in that regard. But for me, it's just about getting midfielders in. Chuck O'Neill and Ainsworth in. I don't think O'Neill should have been dropped for as long as he has been anyway. And we got midfield numbers down. So I'm not so big on Ainsworth, but definitely Xavier. Just slot him in and just tell him, you're playing big midfield minutes. And it's not so much about how you use the ball. It's just attacking contest after contest. Cripps is back to his best. Walsh is dynamic. You just got to make it hard for them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Jermaine Jones is interesting, isn't it? He didn't play that high possession role on the weekend, did he? There was a moment where he set up a goal for us with a big tackle in the forward 50, and I was like, that is what I want to see. Him putting someone down, ball spilling loose, we get a goal out of it. That doesn't go on the stat sheet, aside from a tackle, but the influence of that, the importance of that, can't be overstated. So, I like Jones in the team. Archie was probably forced into playing midfield minutes again on the weekend, which he's not necessarily going to be a high possession winner for us, no matter where he plays. So, whether he's going to be much use on the SCG, it's a funny grounds, the SCG. You have to be conscious with your selections. You can get lost, ball going over your head a lot. So that'll be interesting to see what they do. It's going to be a tough task, isn't it? We're running into Carlton at a time where they've got some informed players. Wiedering's probably all Australian. Mackay kicking goals. Cripps is seemingly injury-free now and playing well. So it's going to be a test.
It's 2 teams who have final quarter fade-outs. I mean, it could be a final quarter that is 0-0 apiece, and whoever's ahead at 3/4 time wins the game, and the ball just goes nowhere for the final term. They've got those problems as well, and they'll have issues mentally. But they just played on the SCG. They gave Sydney a shake. They'll have bonded a week, in a hub here in Sydney or in isolation, whatever they're doing. I think it's a really tough game. They go in as favourites, and for good reason, especially with our midfield again being tested with Kelly out. So, I think we'll lose as it stands right now. I really hope I'm wrong. Can't wait to go off. COVID in Victoria is that working on the game. Really pumped to go watch the boys. Hope they win desperately, but as it stands right now, I'm tipping Carlton.
Yeah, we're pretty gettable at the moment, aren't we? I think if we need to be realistic with our expectations going into the game, considering the personnel that are out. It's using injuries as an excuse is such a cliche, but if you look at McGovern, Oscar Allen, now Kelly, Shuey, and some guys still underdone and working their way back, we look a little bit vulnerable. So, it's going to be interesting. I'm still optimistic, Garby, maybe a little more than you are. But I'll be going into the game eyes wide open on this one. Just hoping for a good performance.
I mean, I just, with Yowitt, maybe he's at 80% of the time, missing our best midfielder in Kelly. I just don't see how we match them in the middle of the park to get it going forward enough in an effective manner to win the game. So that's a big concern. Hopefully they can. And Jack has a big game and JK has a big game and Liam Ryan gets back to his best and Cripper pulls something out and we can just kick a winning score and we hold them down back, but they've only got one dominant forward. So that's the hope, but not much confidence. So just before we go, Drewy, speaking of Carlton, Jared Garlett. So apparently we have told him that we want to take him in the mid-season draft. Apparently the Eagles are going to get him to play or did get him to play for the Waffle side just to get back into that level of footy. It's an interesting one. So we've got a tendency to do this. WA players taken early in drafts who don't quite work out. We love having another look at them. We did it with Mitch Morton and Jared Oakley-Nichols. Neither of them worked out. And it looks like we might do it again with Garlett. What do you make of it?
I really like it. I like what the thinking of getting him in mid-season, getting him into the program and seeing what he has to offer. He's got the attributes that we probably claim that we need. He's a forward half player. capable of the spectacular as we've seen throughout his career at Carlton. And did he start at Gold Coast?
Yeah, he did. Started at Gold Coast, then went to Carlton. Didn't work out. 25 now. Maybe he's matured and the penny's dropped, and he can do something.
Yeah, I like the idea. So no prospect of him necessarily playing this season, though.
I don't know. If you take it in the mid-season draft, you're on the list, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm if we're getting him in just to get him into the program, if he's not ready to play at this level, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You're 6 months ahead if you get him in during the mid-season draft. So we don't have a spot on the list. So do we have to find a long-term injury or?
I think it may be the Venables situation.
Yes. Yeah, that would make sense.
I think it's in relation to Venables, which is very sad, but that's probably the way it goes. So yeah, Morton didn't work out, but he's spoken about his sort of mental issues that he's had and anxiety, and maybe it had just gone too far by that stage. Oakley Nichols for me was just never an AFL footballer. Like how he was taking pick 8, I'll never understand. Like you saw from his first game, he just didn't have any pace about him or any skill. Like it's just bizarre.
Yep.
I have no idea how he was drafted at that number. It's just maybe he had a good carnival and that was it. But it's weird. Hopefully third time lucky, hey, with Carlton, and it does work out and something happens. But obviously the WA recruiters watched him closely and realised there's a player there and have said to Simo, like, if he gets anywhere near what he's capable of, like you've got an absolute gem. So it's worth a gamble. There's no harm. And if we've got a spot on the list, you might as well give it a crack.
Yeah, I agree. I like us trying something with the list. It's good because it's going to be a busy off season, no doubt. So yeah, let's hope that we can put in a good performance against Carlton. And let's ideally avoid a fourth quarter fade out. If we can do that and finish strong, I think I'll be happy regardless of the result.
Hopefully we win. Can't wait for it. Looking forward to it on Sunday. Yes, it's been a bit of doom and gloom here, but when the boys roll out again, we get pumped up. And to knock off the Blues, it's always enjoyable. So let's hope we do it. They've got some issues as well. So let's hope the lads fire up and they sort out whatever the hell's going on behind the scenes this week and go out there and put in their best performance of the season and take a big 4 points before the bye, and we can feel better about the second half of the season. Truey, thank you. Thanks to everyone for listening. Go Eagles.
Thanks, Garby. See you guys.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.